So as promised, I am back with a review for Terminator Genysis. What did I think about Terminator Genysis? Yeah, it was alright. Okay, obviously that's not the whole review, okay, don't worry. I am a pretty big cinephile, I love my movies, and growing up I really liked the first two Terminator films. The two that followed it were a bit... meh. But you know, Terminator Genysis was making the promise of reinvigorating the franchise with something fresh and amazing. Unfortunately, it's been hit with a lot of negative reviews thus far, and personally I don't think that's very fair. Terminator Genysis works on the basis that the predestination paradox is being turned on its head when a small event happens just as Kyle Reese is being sent back in time to save Sarah Connor. Of course, it's the same tangent timeline thing that helped reboot and reinvigorate the Star Trek franchise, and clearly the producers were hoping that lightning would strike twice with this franchise as well. Kyle Reese goes back in time believing that Sarah Connor is going to be young, defenseless, only to encounter a soldier and her pet Terminator, who she refers to as Pops. An awful lot of very fine work actually went into this to actually recreate everything that happened in the 80s, and you have a wonderful titanic showdown between Pops and the 80s Terminator just to prove that everything that you already thought you knew no longer exists. And of course this continues. Unfortunately, some parts of the plot can be a bit predictable, such as the nefarious intentions of Genysis and the fact that it's, spoiler alert, actually Skynet. Not really much of a spoiler, come on, we all saw this coming. Besides the occasional bit of predictability, the only real problem with Terminator Genysis is the fact that it ends up being bogged down in its own story. There are several lines of story that end up going on at the same time, such as the predestiny of Sarah and Kyle supposing to, get together so then they can father John. This all being turned around because of the fact that Terminators were sent further back now to actually try and kill Sarah, and now Sarah has grown up to be a completely different person. Ramifications to the shift in the timeline by the fact that the 80s Terminator is dealt with very quickly and very efficiently. The fact that there's a T-1000 now sent into the past, and of course the whole time jumping nonsense about going forward to deal with Genysis, and the Terminator that Skynet has actually sent back to protect itself and have its own creation set further forward in time than it had been previously. This of course ends up dealing to some problems such as who reprogrammed the T-800/Pops and sent him back in time. Questions such as these are not answered and left dangling open for the rest of the franchise to cover, but what the film does do incredibly well is it's incredibly well directed, and there is a hell of a lot of charm and charisma between all of the main cast. Emilia Clarke and John Clark playing the Connors, Jay Courtney as Kyle Reese, and even Arnold Schwarzenegger, who a lot of people will joke isn't exactly a grandstand actor, does actually pull an incredible amount of emotion from the otherwise robotic persona that he has been portraying for the last 30 years. Alan Taylor proves himself to be an incredible successor to James Cameron when it comes to directing the Terminator movies. His visual scale is rather fantastic and has been proven many times both in Game of Thrones and Thor: The Dark World previously. And of course it would be remiss of me to not mention the extended cameo by a certain Matthew Smith, as he's calling himself now. I can't really give away exactly who he is, but his cameo, or should I say cameos, plural, actually have an incredible amount of weight on the overall franchise, and his character is really, really well played, and hopefully he will be back. A little bit of a Terminator joke. It boils down to an incredible finale, and despite any confusion as to where the rest of the franchise is going to be, it is really, really entertaining. Terminator Genysis is actually very entertaining and leaves questions that can be explored in later parts of the franchise, but currently it's underperforming in the box office, which I honestly do not understand. This is actually a step 1 that I really want to see steps 2 and 3 towards. The whole idea is that this is a reinvigoration. This is the new origin story for a Terminator franchise, and where it could be going would be really, really exciting if given the chance. So where would I put Terminator Genysis? If I were to mark it with a score, probably about 4 stars out of 5, I would say. Because let's be honest, even if James Cameron were to come back and actually do something, he'd only actually sort of bring back some old technology like 3D, or he'd end up being the big showcase for a new technology like he did with CGI in the past. And despite the fact that it would look visually amazing, the story would probably be lagging under its own weight anyway. So this is about as good as Terminator's going to get in the 21st century, and frankly that is not a bad thing at all. So just the... what are you doing? Stop moving. You squeaked. Stop squeaking. You're too distracting, woman. You really are. So there's my review, or should I say my opinion on Terminator Genysis. If you don't agree, if you do agree, leave it in the comments section, let me know. Or you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr. You can hit subscribe for more, and you can be damn sure that I'll be back with more Live from Your Mother's Basement.